She called me a peasant, a clueless old fool. She said it in French, whispering in my own kitchen, thinking the old contractor wouldn't understand. She was planning to marry my son, bleed him dry, and destroy the legacy I built with my own 2 hands. She thought I was just a worn-out checkbook. She was about to find out I don't just build houses, I demolish them too. The scent of sawdust usually calmed my nerves. It was the smell of my life. 40 years of honest work. I'm Robert. I'm a contractor. I build things that last. I ran my hand over the smooth surface of the oak cabinet I was finishing. Solid, real. My workshop was my sanctuary. It was where I felt closest to Mary. Mary, 10 years gone, but she was everywhere. Especially here. She used to sit in the old armchair near the window, sunlight catching the dust motes. She'd read aloud while I worked, sometimes novels. Often it was in French. Mary loved France. She spent a year in Paris before we met. She always dreamed of us retiring there. She insisted on teaching me the language. I was a stubborn student. I preferred the solid reality of blueprints to the complicated rules of French grammar. But Mary was persistent. "Robert," she would laugh, her eyes sparkling, "one day you will thank me for this." I learned more than I ever let on. Just to see that delight in her eyes. After she died, I kept studying. Audiobooks, French movies. It was my secret connection to her, a way to keep her voice alive in my mind. I wasn't fluent, but I could understand almost everything. It was our secret. I never thought it would become my weapon. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this world. It was a Tuesday morning when the phone call came, the call that shattered the quiet rhythm of my life. I wiped my hands on my apron and answered. "Dad, you sitting down?" My son David's voice crackled through the speaker. He sounded breathless, energized in a way I hadn't heard since Mary died. "I'm good, Dave. What's the news?" "I'm engaged." The words hung in the air. "Engaged." The words hung in the air. "Engaged." The words hung in the air. "Engaged." The words hung in the air. And engaged. The words hung. David had been in Paris for 6 months. It started as a study abroad program, then a job at an art gallery. He'd been lonely after his mother passed. We both were. He had mentioned a girl, Chloe, but engagement? This felt fast. Too fast. "Wow, David, that's incredible." I tried to sound enthusiastic. A knot of worry formed in my stomach. I raised David alone for the last 10 years. He was a good kid, kind-hearted, maybe a little too trusting. I'd spent my life making sure he was safe. Her name is Chloe Dubois. She's amazing, Dad. You're going to love her. And her parents are wonderful, too. I'm happy for you, son. Truly. There's more, David continued, his voice speeding up. We want to get married soon. Here, in the States. My grip tightened on the phone. Why the rush, Dave? Her visa is complicated and we don't want to be apart.
A complicated visa.
It sounded like a convenient excuse. The knot tightened into a lead weight. Soon? How soon? Next month? David said. We're all flying in this weekend to meet you. Chloe and her parents. We'll stay at the house, if that's okay. This weekend, it wasn't just the speed. It was the urgency. But I loved my son. I wanted him to be happy. Of course, son, I said, forcing a cheerful tone. The house is ready. I can't wait to meet her. I hung up the phone. The silence of the workshop suddenly felt cold. And I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. I spent the next few days preparing. I cleaned rooms that hadn't been used in years. I polished the silver Mary had cherished. The house felt too big for just me, filled with echoes. As I dusted the bookshelf, my fingers brushed against Mary's collection of French literature. I paused, looking at the worn spines. Maybe Mary knew. Maybe she knew I would need this language one day. I shook my head. I was being paranoid, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Saturday arrived too quickly. The doorbell rang. My heart hammered against my ribs. I opened the door. There he was. David, taller, thinner, his face glowing. And next to him, Chloe. I had to admit, she was stunning. Petite, with dark, glossy hair, bright green eyes, and a smile that could charm birds out of the trees. Dad, David hugged me tight. Mrs. Chloe, Sim stepped forward and kissed me on both cheeks. The scent of expensive perfume filled the hallway. Robert, it is such a pleasure to finally meet you, she said. Her English was excellent, lightly accented. Charming. David speaks so highly of you. The pleasure is mine, Chloe. Welcome. Then I saw her parents, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mr. and Mrs. Dubois stood behind them, older, dressed in expensive-looking clothes that seemed out of place in my simple home. Mr. Dubois was tall and severe. He kept adjusting his cuffs, a nervous tic. His handshake was brief, cold, like gripping a dead fish. Mrs. Dubois was elegant, wrapped in a silk scarf. Even though it was warm, her eyes were sharp. They didn't look at me. They scanned the room, assessing. Come in, please, I said, ushering them into the living room. The invasion had begun. The first few hours were a performance. Chloe was the star. She admired the house. She complimented my woodwork, the custom fireplace mantel I had built for Mary. Robert, your work is magnificent, she said, running a manicured finger over the polished wood. You are a true artisan. It's just honest work, I replied modestly. But I noticed something that made the hairs on my neck stand up. When David was talking, Chloe's eyes kept darting around the room. It wasn't admiration. It was appraisal. She noticed the quality of the furniture, the small antiques Mary had collected, the structure of the house itself. She wasn't looking at a home. She was looking at assets. And her mother was doing the same thing, whispering occasionally to her husband in French. I pretended not to notice. Mr. Dubois cleared his throat. He sat stiffly on the sofa, refusing the drink I offered. David tells us you are very successful, Robert, he said. His voice was dry, demanding respect. A construction empire, yes? I chuckled. Hardly an empire. It's a small business. We do custom homes, renovations. It provides a comfortable life. I was downplaying it. The business was worth millions. But they didn't need to know that. Not yet. And you're retired now? Mrs. Dubois asked. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the polite chatter. Mostly, I replied. I still take on a few projects, but the company runs itself mostly. I paused, letting the next part sink in. I set it up so David could take over when he's ready. If he ever gets tired of the art world, it's his legacy. That's when I saw it. A flicker of interest in Mrs. Dubois' eye. A quick silent communication exchanged between her and Chloe. A slight nod. It lasted only a second. But it was enough. The unease in my gut grew heavier. This wasn't a family visit. It was a business transaction. And my son was the commodity. We moved to the dining room. I had prepared a big dinner. Roast beef, potatoes, green beans. Simple, hearty food. I used Mary's best china. The atmosphere was festive on the surface. The wine was flowing. David looked happier than I had ever seen him. He was beaming, holding Chloe's hand under the table. He was completely oblivious. To David and Chloe, I toasted, raising my glass. May your life together be filled with joy and love. They smiled, their glasses clinking. Chloe looked at me, her eyes shining. Thank you, Robert. You are a wonderful father. I feel so lucky to be joining your family. She looked so sincere. If I hadn't seen that look exchanged earlier, I might have believed her. She was good, very good. Dessert time. The conversation shifted back to their plans. A small wedding. Quickly. At the courthouse. It's just easier with immigration paperwork, Chloe explained sweetly. She placed her hand on David's arm. The sooner we are married, the sooner I can get my green card. We just cannot bear to be apart. It made sense, yet it didn't. Why the rush if the love was meant to last a lifetime? My instincts screamed at me. Something was deeply wrong. Then the moment happened. The moment the illusion shattered. Chloe's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it. Her expression shifted. Just for a fraction of a second, the mask slipped. A flicker of annoyance, urgency. Excuse me, please, she said, her voice tight. It is my aunt. She is not feeling well. I must take this. She stood up and walked out of the dining room, toward the kitchen. I watched her go, The silence at the table felt heavy. A few minutes passed. David was talking animatedly about the art gallery. I realized I had forgotten to bring out the coffee pot. A perfect excuse. "I'll be right back with the coffee," I said, standing up. David smiled, oblivious. I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen. The house was quiet. As I got closer, I heard Chloe's voice. She was speaking French. Her tone was completely different. Not the sweet, melodic voice she used in English. It was sharp, cold, businesslike. I stopped just outside the doorway, hidden in the shadows of the hallway. I focused. The language Mary had taught me coming back to me, clear as day. "Stop worrying, Paul," she hissed into the phone. Paul, not her aunt. My heart hammered against my ribs. I strained to listen. "Everything is going according to plan," she continued in rapid French. "The son is simple, completely blind. He believes everything I say. He is desperate for love." I felt the blood drain from my face. Simple. Blind. She was talking about my David, and then she talked about me. She laughed. A cruel, cold sound that sent shivers down my spine. "The father," she scoffed. "The father is a clueless old fool. He is just a builder, a peasant, but he has money, a lot of it. The house, the business, it is all ours. Clueless old fool, peasant." My hands clenched into fists. The rage was a physical thing, crawling up my throat. The words hit me like physical blows. I wanted to burst into the kitchen, to expose her, to throw them all out of my house. But I looked back towards the dining room. I heard David's laughter. I knew I couldn't. Not yet. He wouldn't believe me. Then came the words that pierced my heart. The words that confirmed my deepest fears. "This ugly cow's son is perfect," she said. The insult stung like a slap. "I'll marry him next week. It will secure the green card. Then we wait. The old man is already old and sad. He won't last long. Old and sad." She thought I was dying. She was counting on it. "When he dies, David gets everything. And then I divorce him. I take half. Half, Paul. We will be set for life." She paused, listening to Paul on the other end. "Of course I can stand it," she said, her voice dismissive. I close my eyes and pretend. It is easy. A year, maybe 2. Then I am free and rich. A year, maybe 2. That was her timeline. My son's life reduced to a transaction. I couldn't listen anymore. I felt sick. Dizzy of rage and disbelief. The beautiful, charming woman who had kissed my cheek was a viper, a predator. She was planning to destroy my son's life, to steal the legacy I had built for him with my sweat and blood. I knew then, this wasn't just a scam. It was a declaration of war. I took a deep breath, forcing the emotion down. I had to be smart. I had to protect David. And to do that, I had to become the clueless old fool she thought I was. I walked into the kitchen. I made sure my footsteps were loud enough. Chloe spun around, her eyes wide with shock. She quickly switched back to English. "Oh, Robert, I am so sorry. My aunt, she is having a crisis." She slipped the phone into her pocket. Her hand trembled, just slightly. I looked at her, really looked at her. The mask was back in place. The sweet smile, the innocent eyes. But I saw the monster underneath. "Is she all right?" I asked. My voice was surprisingly steady. "Yes, she will be fine, thank you." I picked up the coffee pot. My hands were steady. My resolve hardened. "Good, let's go back to the table. The coffee is getting cold." We walked back to the dining room. David smiled at Chloe. Mr. and Mrs. Dubois watched me closely. They were in on it. I could see it now. The cold eyes, the sharp questions. This was a family operation, a coordinated attack. I sat down and poured the coffee, my mind racing. The rest of the evening was torture. Every time Chloe laughed, I heard the cruel sound from the kitchen. Every time she touched David, I wanted to scream. I smiled politely, nodded at the conversation, played the gracious host. But inside, I was planning my counterattack. When the evening finally ended, and everyone went to their rooms, I sat alone in the darkness. The silence of the house was heavy. I looked at the picture of Mary on the mantelpiece. Her eyes, so full of wisdom and kindness, seemed to look right through me. "What do I do, Mary?" I whispered. "Help me protect our son." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my armchair, watching the shadows dance on the walls, formulating a plan. I needed proof, hard evidence. My word against hers wouldn't be enough. David was infatuated, blinded by what he thought was love. The next morning, I called an old friend, Mike. We served together in the army years ago. He was tough, smart, and loyal. Now he ran a private investigation firm. I met him in a diner across town, away from the house, away from the prying eyes. The smell of stale coffee and grease hung in the air. I ordered coffee, black. Mike sat across from me, stirring his cup endlessly. An old habit, even though the cup was nearly empty. His expression serious. I told him everything. The whirlwind romance, the rushed wedding, overheard conversation. "You speak French?" Mike asked, surprised finally stopping his stirring. "Enough to know I'm being played," I said grimly. "I need you to dig into her background. Chloe Dubois. Her parents. And someone named Paul. I think he's her boyfriend. Maybe the mastermind." Mike leaned forward. "Robert, these international background checks are complicated, expensive.
And these marriage fraud rings?
They are professional. They cover their tracks well. They know how to hide. I don't care about the cost, Mike. I care about my son. I need to know everything." "I'm on it," Mike said, his expression hardening. "But you need to be careful. If she realizes you suspect something, she might run. Or worse, you might accelerate the plan. Or get dangerous. I know," I said, taking a sip of the bitter coffee. "I'm playing the clueless old fool." But playing the fool was harder than I thought. The next few weeks were a delicate, dangerous dance. I had to pretend to be the happy future father-in-law while hiding the agonizing truth. Chloe was meticulous. She played the role of the devoted fiancée flawlessly. She helped me in the kitchen, asked for my recipes. She was securing her position, wrapping David tighter around her finger. But I watched her. I saw the small slips, the impatience in her eyes when David was distracted, the way she tapped her manicured nails impatiently on the table when she thought I wasn't listening. A predator's tale. She was charming on the surface, but underneath there was ice. And then the real game began. The money grab. David came to me in the workshop. He leaned against the workbench, looking uncomfortable. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Dad, we need to talk," he said. "What's wrong, son?" I put down my tools. "It's about Chloe's parents." He shifted his weight. "They are having some financial trouble back in France. Some unexpected bills. They need some money. Just a loan." "How much?" I asked, already knowing it would be significant. $20,000. $20,000. It had started. They were already starting to drain the resources, testing the waters, seeing how easily I would give in. I wanted to refuse, to scream at David to wake up, but I knew I couldn't. Not yet. I didn't have the proof. I had to play along carefully.
If I refused,
Chloe would use it to create a rift between me and David. She would paint me as the villain. I had to walk a tightrope. "That's a lot of money, David," I said slowly, rubbing my chin, playing the hesitant old man. "I need to check my accounts. I'm not as liquid as I used to be." David looked disappointed, crushed. "But they need it now, Dad. Chloe is very worried. She says they might lose their home." The lies were escalating. "I understand," I said, putting a hand on his shoulder. "I'll see what I can do. Give me a few days." I delayed the decision. Buying myself time, I didn't give them the money. I let them sweat. Chloe didn't like that, not one bit. The next day she pushed harder. She cornered me in the study. I was reviewing some old blueprints. "Robert," I was thinking. She started, her voice sweet as honey, but her eyes were cold. "Calculating. You have so much to manage. The business, the house. It must be overwhelming for you." "I manage," I said shortly. "Maybe I can help you with the finances," she continued, leaning closer. "I'm very good with numbers. I could modernize your systems. She wanted access to the accounts, the keys to the kingdom. The nerve of this woman. That's very kind of you, Chloe, I said, smiling vaguely. I put the blueprints down, but I've been managing just fine for 40 years. I wouldn't want to burden you with my old-fashioned paperwork. Her smile tightened. The charm vanished for a moment. It is no burden, Robert. Families should help each other. I deflected again, pretending to be confused about the complexity of the business accounts. I played the doddering old man who didn't understand modern finance. She left the study, frustrated. But she wasn't just going to ask anymore. She was going to take. A few days later, I got a call from Sarah. She's been my office manager for 20 years. Loyal, sharp, and fiercely protective of the business. She was the gatekeeper. Robert, or something odd just happened, Sarah said, her voice tight with concern. She always chewed gum when she was nervous. I could hear her snapping it over the phone. What is it, Sarah? Your future daughter-in-law, Chloe. She came by the office. My blood ran cold. What did she want? She said she was getting a head start on understanding the operations, Sarah continued, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She asked for the login credentials for the main business accounts. Said you authorized it. She even had a form with your signature. The audacity. She had forged my signature. She was getting reckless. And what did you tell her? I asked, gripping the phone. I told her I needed verbal confirmation from you, personally. Standard procedure, Sarah said firmly. She wasn't happy about it. She got quite demanding. Threatened to have me fired after the wedding. Said things were going to change around here soon. Good work, Sarah. Do not give her access to anything. Nothing at all. And keep that forged document safe. I locked it in the safe, Sarah confirmed. Be careful, Rob. There's something cold about that girl. I don't trust her. Sarah confirmed what I already knew. They were getting desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. The tension in the house grew thicker. The air crackled with unspoken resentment. I knew I had to push back. I needed to see how they reacted under pressure. I needed professional help to protect the assets. I called Mr. Harrison, my lawyer. He handled the business incorporation years ago, a man who believed in ironclad contracts and distrusted everyone. I met him at his office downtown, polished wood, leather chairs. The smell of old paper and expensive cologne. Robert, good to see you, Harrison said, shaking my hand. He was a man of few words, always peering over his glasses like a judge. What can I do for you, David, finally taking over? Not exactly, I said. I need a prenuptial agreement, and I need it fast. Harrison raised an eyebrow. A prenup for David? That seems sudden, given the timeline. I laid out the situation. The rushed wedding, the visa issues, my concerns about the business. I mentioned the forged signature attempt. I didn't mention the French conversation. Not yet. Harrison listened patiently, steepling his fingers. You are right to be cautious, Robert. A sudden marriage involving significant assets always requires protection. The forgery attempt is deeply concerning. It shows intent to defraud.
He leaned forward. These situations can get messy. Very messy. The key is to present the prenup as a standard business procedure, not an accusation. I plan to, I said, but I expect resistance. Explosive resistance. Let them resist, Harrison said calmly, adjusting his glasses. Their reaction will tell you everything you need to know about their true intentions. He was right. It was time to drop the bomb. We were having dinner. Chloe's parents had joined us again. They were staying at a nearby hotel, funded by my credit card. David had insisted they were bleeding us dry, one charge at a time. The air was thick with unspoken tension. I watched them, these predators in my home, eating my food, drinking my wine, plotting my demise. I knew I had to fight. If this story has you on the edge of your seat, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. It helps our channel grow and bring more stories like this to light. It was time to see what they were really made of. I waited until the main course was served. The stage was set. I put down my fork. The dining room suddenly felt too quiet. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. David looked at me expectantly. Chloe was sipping her wine, avoiding eye contact.
Her parents stiffened. David, now that the wedding is approaching, we need to talk about legal matters. I started casually, taking a sip of water. What matters? David asked, looking up from his plate. He seemed wary. A prenuptial agreement, I said calmly. My lawyer, Mr. Harrison, drafted one today. It's standard procedure to protect you both and to protect the business. The reaction was instantaneous, explosive. David dropped his fork. It clattered loudly on the china plate. His expression darkened. A prenup? Dad, why? Do you not trust Chloe? I looked at my son. His face was flushed with anger, betrayal in his eyes. He's choosing her already. He doesn't even see the danger. It hurts, but I have to push. It's not about trust, David. I tried to explain. It's about being responsible. The business is your legacy. It's what your mother and I built for you. I can't believe you're saying this, David. David exploded, standing up. His chair scraped back against the hardwood floor. Chloe is the love of my life. She would never try to steal from me. You're treating her like a criminal. This is exactly what she was afraid of. He was emotional, irrational, exactly how they wanted him. Chloe burst into tears. Perfect timing. She buried her face in her hands. I knew it, she sobbed, her voice muffled. You do not trust me. You think I am a gold digger. You hate me. Her sobs were loud, dramatic, but I saw the calculation behind the tears. She was playing him like a violin. Mr. Dubois slammed his hand on the table. The silverware rattled. This is an insult. We will not stand for this humiliation. His face was red with rage, or perhaps the fear of losing the prize. The argument escalated quickly. David accused me of being cynical, paranoid. He said I was still grieving, Mom, and couldn't stand to see him happy. If you can't support us, maybe you shouldn't be at the wedding, David shouted. His voice trembled with anger. Those words hit me harder than any punch. Banned from my own son's wedding, he stormed out of the dining room, followed by a sobbing Chloe and her outraged parents. The silence they left behind was deafening. I sat alone at the table, surrounded by the remnants of the dinner. My heart breaking. I was fighting to save him, and it was costing me everything. They had succeeded in isolating me. They had turned my son against me. This is the price. I'll pay it. Even if he hates me for it. I have to. I had never felt so alone in my life. The next few days, David barely spoke to me. He was cold, distant. He moved his belongings into the guest room with Chloe. He truly believed I was the villain. The isolation hurt more than any insult Chloe could throw at me. I was a stranger in my own home, a ghost in my own life. I was losing my son, and I was running out of time. 2 weeks before the wedding, Mike called. Robert, I have the report, he said. His voice was grave. It's worse than you thought, and I found someone you need to talk to. Someone who knows Chloe very well. You need to come to my office. Now, my blood ran cold. I knew this was it. The moment of truth. I drove to Mike's office with a knot of dread in my stomach. The sky was gray, heavy with unshed rain. It matched my mood. Mike's office was small, cluttered with files and smelling of stale coffee. He slid a thick folder across his desk. I opened it, and the truth spilled out. Ugly and undeniable. Chloe Dubois wasn't just an opportunist, she was a professional scammer. A black widow, a predator with a history of destruction. She has massive gambling debts in France, Mike explained, pointing to a highlighted section in the report, accumulated by her boyfriend, Paul Bernard. Paul, the name from the phone call. Paul is the mastermind, Mike continued. Chloe is the bait. They had done this before, twice. Once in Germany, to an older businessman, married him, secured residency, divorced him within a year, taking a large settlement that barely covered their debts, leaving him broken. The second time was in Canada. But the man realized the scam before the wedding. They barely escaped prosecution. They were experienced, ruthless. Her parents aren't just passive observers, Mike said, leaning forward. They are actively involved. Accomplices. They are also in debt to the same people Paul owed money to. This wasn't just about a green card and inheritance. It was about immediate cash to pay off dangerous people. Loan sharks. They are desperate, Robert, Mike warned, and desperate people are dangerous. The people they owe money to, they are not known for their patience. They break things, and people. They were cornered rats, ready to do anything to get what they wanted. I looked at the pictures Mike had obtained. Chloe and Paul kissing passionately in a Parisian cafe, laughing, holding hands. The date stamp was from a week ago, just before she flew to the States. While she was engaged to my son, the betrayal was cold, calculated, cruel, but there was more. I told you I found someone, Mike said, sliding a phone number across the desk. Her name is Anna Schmidt. She's the victim from Germany. Anna, the woman whose life Chloe had already destroyed. She agreed to talk to you, Mike said. She wants to stop Chloe. She said she couldn't live with herself if it happened again. I stared at the number. I had to make the call. I called the number that evening. I sat in the dark study, the house silent around me. A woman answered. Her voice was hesitant, tired, broken. Hello, Anna? My name is Robert. My son is engaged to Chloe Dubois. Silence on the other end. A long, heavy silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Oh God, she whispered. She's doing it again. I am so sorry. Anna told me everything. The whirlwind romance. The promises of eternal love. The sudden financial emergencies. The rushed wedding. And the aftermath. The coldness. The demands for money. The divorce. The lawyers. The emptiness. She is very convincing, Robert, Anna said, her voice trembling with remembered pain. She makes you believe you are the center of her world. She mirrors everything you want, until she gets what she wants. Then she discards you like trash. She destroyed me, Anna continued, her voice breaking. Financially, yes. I lost my business. But emotionally, I don't trust anyone anymore. I don't trust myself. Don't let her do this to your son. You must stop her. Whatever it takes. I thanked Anna. I hung up the phone. My resolve hardened into steel. I had the proof. I had the motivation. Now I needed to use it. But David still wouldn't listen. I tried to show David the report the next day. I went to the guest room. I knocked. Chloe opened the door, wrapped in a silk robe, like a queen in her castle. David, we need to talk. Alone, I said, holding the folder in my hand. It felt heavy, like a weapon. Anything you have to say to me, you can say in front of my fiancée, he replied from inside the room. His voice was cold and distant. Son, please, you need to read this. It's important. It contains testimony from people she hurt before. I held out the folder. He walked to the door. He looked at me. His eyes filled with anger. I'm not reading your poison, Dad. I know what you're trying to do. You hired people to make up lies about the woman I love. You're trying to ruin my life because you can't stand to see me happy. I pleaded with him. David, she's lying to you. She's using you. He refused to listen. He slammed the door in my face. I stood in the hallway. I felt a surge of despair. I was losing him. They were going to get away with it. He won't listen to reason. He only sees the lie. I have to show him the truth in a way he can't deny. I had underestimated their hold on him. Chloe, sensing that she had the upper hand, accelerated the timeline. She knew the clock was ticking. The debts were due. The next morning at breakfast, she looked pale, anxious. Another masterful performance. David, my visa is expiring sooner than we thought, she told him. Her voice was urgent, panicked. I knew why. They needed the money. Fast. The loan sharks were circling. We need to get married this week, Friday, at the courthouse. David looked surprised, but quickly agreed. Of course, sweetheart. Whatever it takes to keep you here. He didn't even question it. He was completely under her spell. She then turned to me, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Robert, we would love for you to be there, as our witness. She was trying to force my hand, to make me complicit in the fraud, to twist the knife. I wouldn't miss it for the world, I said, smiling coldly. She thought she had won, But the game wasn't over yet. The pressure mounted, slowly became bolder, more demanding. Isha started making plans for the house, talking about renovations, as if it was already hers, erasing Mary's memory, erasing me. "Robert, this kitchen is so dated," she said one afternoon, running a manicured finger over the countertop Mary had chosen. "We must knock down this wall, open it up, install marble." "I rather like this kitchen, Chloe," I said, my voice tight. "It has memories." She scoffed. "Memories do not add value, Robert. We must be practical." She was already acting like the lady of the house. But her cruelty reached its peak later that day. Later that day, she confronted me in the hallway. The mask was completely off now. "You should stop fighting this, Robert," she hissed. Her charming facade was gone, replaced by something ugly and venomous. "David loves me. He will marry me. And after we are married, things will change." "What do you mean?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "David will decide how to manage his finances." "His business," she said, her eyes flashing with malice. "And maybe he will decide he doesn't want you interfering in our lives. Maybe he will decide this house is too big for you." She paused, letting the threat hang in the air. "You will be alone, completely alone." She was threatening me, threatening to cut me off from my own son, to throw me out of my own house, to leave me alone in the house, filled with memories. The cruelty of it was staggering. She thought she had broken me. She thought I was a weak old man. She was wrong. She had just fueled my determination. I knew I had to act fast. Friday was 3 days away. I couldn't let this marriage happen. I decided to set the stage for the final confrontation. A trap. I arranged a celebratory dinner the night before the wedding, Thursday evening, a final gathering of the family. I invited Chloe's parents. They were eager to celebrate their victory. I called Mike. "I need you to be there," I said, outside the house, waiting for my signal. "What are you planning, Robert?" "I'm going to burn it all down," I said, "and I need you to contact the immigration authorities. Have them ready. We have the forged signature, the previous scams, the intent to defraud. It's enough. Are you sure about this, Robert?" Mike asked, concerned. "It's going to be messy. It will break his heart." I hesitated. The doubt gnawed at me. Was I doing the right thing? This public humiliation would destroy David's trust and love. It would shatter his world. I looked at the picture of Mary. What would she do? She would protect him, no matter the cost. "I have to do this, Mike," I said, my voice firm. "For David." The plan was set. The stage was ready. The final act was about to begin. Thursday evening arrived. The house was filled with the scent of expensive food I had catered. I didn't want to cook for them. I wanted them to feel comfortable, complacent. The atmosphere in the dining room was electric, tense beneath the surface. Chloe was glowing, dressed in a stunning white dress. She looked like a bride, radiant and triumphant. She believed she had won. The prize was within her grasp. David was nervous but happy, holding her hand tightly. He was walking to his doom, smiling. Mr. and Mrs. Dubois were already celebrating, their eyes gleaming with greed as they sipped the expensive champagne I had provided. They looked at me with pity. The clueless old fool. I sat at the head of the table, watching them, my heart pounding a steady, painful rhythm in my chest. The dinner was tense. The conversation was forced. The laughter brittle. I played the role of the gracious host, the clueless old fool, one last time. We reached the end of the meal. The dessert plates were cleared. The champagne was poured again. It was time for the toast. It was time to strike. I stood up. My glass trembled slightly in my hand. Everyone turned to look at me. David smiled, expecting my blessing, expecting my surrender. "I want to make a toast," I started, my voice slow and emotional, speaking in English. "Edra David, my son, I love you more than anything in this world. I have spent my life trying to protect you, to give you the future you deserve, the future your mother wanted for you." David's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too, Dad." And to Chloe, I continued, turning to look at her. You have brought so much excitement into our lives. You are charming, beautiful, and intelligent. I am fascinated by your ability to adapt, to become whoever you need to be. Chloe beamed, raising her glass. Thank you, Robert. That is very kind. I looked her straight in the eyes, and then I switched to fluent French. Les apparences peuvent être trompeuses, n'est-ce pas, Chloe? But appearances can be deceiving, can't they, Chloe? I said. My voice cold and sharp. The language Mary taught me flowing effortlessly, every word a dagger. Chloe's glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the floor, the champagne staining the white tablecloth like blood. Her face turned white, pale as a ghost. Qu'est-ce que vous dites? What are you saying? She whispered in French, her eyes wide with absolute terror. Vous ne parlez pas français. You do not speak French. Ma femme m'a appris, my wife taught me, I said, still in French. Elle m'a appris la beauté de la langue. Vous m'avez appris sa cruauté. She taught me the beauty of the language. You taught me its cruelty. I continued, my voice rising in volume, near repeating word for word the conversation I had overheard in the kitchen. The conversation she had with Paul. Le fils est simple, complètement aveugle. Il croit tout ce que je dis. The son is simple, completely blind. He believes everything I say. David looked confused, bewildered. Dad, what's going on? I don't understand French. What are you saying? Don't worry, David. I will translate for you, I said, my eyes locked on Chloe. I continued, in French. Relentless. Merciless. Le père est un vieil imbécile sans idée. Un paysan. The father is a clueless old fool. A peasant. Le fils de cette vache laide est parfait. This ugly cow's son is perfect. Chloe was shaking, tears streaming down her face. Fake tears. But the fear was real. Je l'épouserai pour la carte verte. Ensuite, nous attendons. Le vieil homme ne durera pas longtemps. I'll marry him for the green card. Then we wait. The old man won't last long. Quand il mourra, David aura tout. Et puis, je divorce. Je prends la moitié. La moitié, Paul. When he dies, David gets everything, and then I divorce him. I take half. Half Paul? The truth was out, naked and ugly, Chloe screamed in English, turning to David. No, it is not true. He is lying. David, he is lying. He hates me. He is trying to destroy our happiness. Mr. Dubois stood up, his face red with rage. How dare you insult our daughter, he shouted in broken English. Sit down, I said, my voice booming with authority. The voice of a man who commands construction sites. They froze, shocked by the sudden display of power from the man they dismissed as a peasant. I walked over to the sideboard and picked up the large envelope containing the PI report. I signaled to the window. Mike walked into the dining room, his presence dominating the space. Tall, broad, imposing. This is Mike, my friend. I introduced him. He is a private investigator. I also pointed to the corner of the room, where Sarah, my office manager, and Mr. Harrison, my lawyer, stood. They had let themselves in quietly during the chaos. Witnesses. I opened the envelope and threw the documents on the table. The pictures of Chloe and Paul, the records of her debts, the testimony from Anna Schmidt, the forged signature document Sarah had saved, the evidence of her previous scams in Germany and Canada. It's all here, Chloe, I said, switching back to English. The evidence. Your scam is over. David picked up the pictures, his hands trembling. He looked at the images of Chloe kissing Paul, laughing with him. He looked at the dates. Last week, when she was supposed to be in love with him. He looked at the forged signature. He recognized my handwriting well enough to know it wasn't mine. He looked at Chloe, his eyes filled with pain and disbelief. The realization shattered him. The illusion crumbled. Chloe, what is this? Who is this man? His voice was barely a whisper. Chloe tried to deny it, to explain it away. It is lies, fabricated. He is my cousin. But the evidence was overwhelming. Her words choked in her throat. She looked at her parents, pleading for help. But they looked away, defeated. They knew the game was up. David finally understood. The depth of the betrayal hit him like a physical blow. He staggered back, his face pale, his eyes hollow. "You never loved me," he whispered. His voice broken, it was all a lie. Chloe, realizing that she had lost, dropped the facade completely. The sweet, charming woman disappeared. Her face twisted into a mask of rage. "You stupid American," she hissed at David. "You were so easy, so gullible. You deserve to be scammed." The admission hung in the air, poisonous and final. David let out a strangled sob. I walked over to Chloe, my voice low and dangerous. "You thought I was a clueless old fool. You underestimated me. You tried to destroy my family. Now you will face the consequences." I turned to Mike. "Escort them out of my house." Just then, 2 uniformed officers from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement walked into the room. Mike had called them. The timing was perfect. "Chloe Dubois?" one officer asked. "You and your parents are under arrest for visa fraud and conspiracy to commit marriage fraud." Mike grabbed Chloe's arm. She tried to fight back, scratching, hissing, screaming curses in French. But he was too strong. The officers moved towards her and her parents. "You cannot do this. I have rights." Chloe screamed. "You forfeited those rights when you attempted to defraud an American citizen," one of the officers said coldly. As they were being led away, I looked at Chloe one last time. I said in fluent French, "J'ai adoré vous rencontrer tous. J'espère que l'immigration me fera aussi." I loved meeting you all. I bet immigration will too. She glared at me, her eyes burning with hatred. And then she was gone. The silence in the dining room was deafening. Sarah and Harrison quietly excused themselves, leaving me alone with my son. The remnants of the feast sat on the table, a mockery of the celebration it was supposed to be. I turned to David. He was standing in the middle of the room, shattered, lost. He looked at me, his eyes filled with shame and regret. The pain radiating from him was almost unbearable. "Dad, I'm so sorry," he choked out. "I didn't see it. I was so blind." He took a shaky breath. Tears streamed down his face. "I said horrible things to you. I turned against you. I almost threw everything away for her." "It's not your fault, David," I said softly, walking over to him. "She was a professional. She played you. You wanted to be loved. There is nothing wrong with that." He collapsed into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The deep, wrenching sobs of a man whose world has been destroyed. I held him tightly, my own tears falling silently. I cried with him, for the loss of his innocence, for the betrayal he had suffered, for the pain I had to inflict to save him. We stood there for a long time. Amidst the wreckage of the evening, I knew that the road to recovery would be long. His heart was broken, his trust shattered, but he was safe. We were safe. A few weeks later, the dust settled. Mike confirmed that Chloe and her parents were deported back to France, flagged by international authorities. Their scamming career was over. Paul Bernard was also arrested in France, thanks to the coordinated efforts. David and I were in the workshop. He was sanding a piece of wood, the rhythmic sound filling the silence. He had quit his job at the art gallery, said he needed a break from the pretense. He started working with me, learning the trade. He said he needed to do something honest, something real. "Dad," he said quietly, not looking up. "Yes, son? How did you know? How did you learn to speak French so well? You never told me." I paused, looking at the old armchair where Mary used to sit. It was empty, but I felt her presence, warm and comforting. I smiled, a sad, nostalgic smile. "Your mother taught me," I said. "She always said that knowledge is power, and that love is the ultimate protection." David nodded, understanding. He looked at me, his eyes clear and focused. The pain was still there, but also a newfound maturity, a deeper understanding of the world, and a profound gratitude. We continued working in silence, the scent of sawdust and varnish filling the air. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It was filled with the enduring strength of family, the resilience of love, and the quiet satisfaction of justice. "Sir, I knew then that we would be all right. We had faced the darkness, and we had emerged stronger. Together, thanks for listening to our story. It proves that sometimes the quietest people hold the most power, and that a parent's love knows no bounds. Please rate our story in the comment. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.